I was born and raised in New York City, but I spent a lot of time in Philly. I went to Temple University, and after I graduated, I stayed there for I was in Philly from about 92 to about 2002, about 10 years. So I got my degree, stayed a couple of years. And while I was working there, I was working in the public school system, working with mostly boys who couldn't stay on task in class. It was kind of like a mentor. People in social work, they call it the wraparound or TSS. It's a therapeutic staff support. Is the official title that they use in social work. And so in that position, I'm like the low man on the totem pole. I'm like the guy who's observing and try to implement what the behavioral specialist, has prescribed for the kid. It might be a 7 year old, 10 year old, 12 year old. And I'm probably at that time I was getting about $15 an hour. I think the behavioral specialist was probably getting about at least 35. I think some of them may have been 45, 55. But I mean, I don't know what they were doing in their sessions, but all I know is they hardly ever showed up to the schools that I was working in. So I was pretty much on my own. And sometimes I had to deal with resistance from the teachers, from the kid if he's acting up, sometimes the principal's not even around. You see the principal in the morning and then they're gone for the rest of the day. So any type of support for an outside agent is kind of you got to it depends on the school. You got to build it, and not every school has that good support system for social workers who are in the class with the kids. Now, one of the things that I hated was that you know, the older the kid, the worse. And that's the worst part about it. It's like when the kids were like 12 years old, 13 years old, oh man, they thought they were grown. You couldn't tell them shit. Their shit didn't stink. They want you to do shit for them in order for them to just stay on task. Now, the little kids, like 7, 8 year olds, they're pretty good. You show up, boom, their whole demeanor changes. A lot of those kids just want a male figure around. And, that's the big discussion on the web right now. Little black boys and even little Latino boys was in the schools that I was in. There was no fathers around. I mean, sometimes I'd be standing in the yard with my kid and, some of their moms trying to pick me up and shit. But yeah, man, it was crazy. It was I mean, one mom, she had me up in her crib. Sometimes you did have to make house visits. And she had me up in her crib and she was like, "Man, I got my tubes tied and this, that, and the third." I was like, "Let me get my shit and get the fuck out of here." But in any case, stuff like that was like, it was really rare. That wasn't happening a lot. It happened like maybe 2 or 3 times where the parent really tried to give me some. But I'm not even going to get into that. The whole thing is that a lot of times, by the time we reach these boys, I mean, the state of mind that they're in is just totally just not even on schoolwork. Like schoolwork, they're in the school building, but they're not even thinking about school. They're coming to school with a whole nother thing. I mean, some of the kids taking, loose leaf paper, pencil sharpenings, acting like they're rolling a blunt, crazy shit like that. But I mean, not all schools are bad, but just with my particular kid, I just noticed that it was more difficult with the older kid than it was with the younger. You would think with the older you can kind of relate with him more, but he was more resistant. With the little one, 7, 8 year old, they were more eager for me to give them direction, and that's the weird thing. And so it just gives you kind of a testament to the type of conditioning that we are, giving our kids by the time someone even tries to step in. So for me to really, really have stepped in with the 12-year-old, I really had to get at him more outside the classroom. And that's where I had more success. Where with the little ones, I can pretty much keep them on task and build with them and build a strong relationship while, during the school hours. So that's one good thing. That's what's one of the differences between the age groups. But I remember one of the times my kid, my 12-year-old, his father came to school because, he was acting bad or whatever. And his dad was just like cursing him out. And so all I can do is really just observe. I'm not trying to get involved in that anyway. But so it's my job anyway to just write down everything that was happening. And I'm like, everything that I do with him during his time with me is easily undone by his home life. You know what I mean? I don't really remember his hearing his mom really say anything. She showed up, but other than that, then eventually, I had to move on from him because after a while it becomes stressful. You start to kind of get attached, and certain kids don't ever want to get right. Some want to get right. So in any case, I ended up getting a younger kid, which was a lot easier. Like I said, younger kids, they seem to just kind of fall in line. They're little, so they fall in line. They don't really got the opinions of their own so much just yet. But mentoring little black boys is something that is absolutely necessary, but the degree to which you must do it, it's pretty intense. It's pretty intense. You can't just pop up and say hello because usually when you pop up and say hello, with such little frequency, that's when you're popping up to a jail cell saying hello. You have to kind of like totally, totally take over on some military shit. Because think about it, all the work that I was doing a lot of the times with my 12-year-old was being undone from, his time out of school throughout the evening and on to the next morning. So just in that equivalent amount of time, I guess you want to call it. Well, I guess it's more when you get home. But I mean, sheesh, you're just undoing all of the progress that we were trying to make. And what I mean by progress is just staying on task and having a reason to finish your schoolwork. Because a lot of these kids, it's not so much, you know, they don't really have a reason to do the schoolwork. They see a different way of living. They want what they want now. I have my kid asking me, if you give me a puppy, I'll do my schoolwork. And I'm like, nah, little nigga, that's not how it works. So, but I'm telling you, man, it just goes to show how tough it can be. I mean, all kids are different, but if you're focusing on the bad ones, that's pretty much what you're running into. So I mean, if you want to call it bad, but you know what I mean. It's the less desirable. But in any case, I just want to get that off my chest. Peace.